and the river there is not even a mile wide, not even a kilometre wide, actually. So they can hit the city constantly with artillery, but they also use Kherson as practice for their drone pilots to hunt down civilians, hunt them down on foot, on their bicycles, in cars. And really, I mean, these things are hovering above your head. People are trying to hide under trees. The winter's much harder because there isn't the foliage to hide under. In the centre of Kherson, there are drone nets all above the central streets. And also I went on the little bus, and the first few miles when you're getting into Kherson is you're going under a drone net. And this is all to try and stop the very high level of casualties. But I mean, what a tactic. It's sheer terrorism to hunt people down like this. And the Russian drone pilots, they often post their footage online, sort of gleeful footage of, look, I got this woman with her dog. It's disgusting.
Now, Ukraine faced mass power cuts overnight after Russian drone attacks targeted the country's energy-generating infrastructure. The attacks disrupted electricity, heat and water supplies in cities across Ukraine. The journalist Jen Stout is based in the city of Odesa and has recently been in the southern city of Kherson, talking to residents about the impact of so-called human safari drone attacks. And Jen joins me now from Odesa. Hello, Jen.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks very much for being with us. Let's wait for my accent to change in moments. What's the latest on the ground in Odesa? What's it like where you are right now?
Well, the power just went off, and that is the general situation. I think for many Ukrainians, the last few days is that you've got power for maybe 3 or 4 hours, and then you've got 6 to 8, depending on where you are, without any power. Sometimes that means there's no heating, there's no water as well. But look, as someone said to me the other day in Kherson, she sort of laughed and said, listen, it's not our first winter in the war. So they're there's generators everywhere around every corner in Odessa, so you can find your cup of coffee. They have very good coffee here. And people have, I went to see a friend last night in his dentist's surgery, and he's got like a whole stack of batteries. It's very, very complex, so that he can keep doing surgeries during the blackout. So they have become used to this. But yeah, as you said, the Friday night bombing was it was so huge. I mean, 458 drones, 45 missiles, and they're hitting both the power generation plants, but also the transmission sites simultaneously, which makes it really, really difficult to maintain the grid.
So what's meant by human safari drone attacks? What does that mean?
Well, this phrase arose in Kherson. It is done elsewhere as well, but I think Kherson is the worst. Kherson, the Russians are just across the river, and the river there is not even a mile wide, not even a kilometre wide, actually. So they can hit the city constantly with artillery, but they also use Kherson as practice for their drone pilots to hunt down civilians, hunt them down on foot, on their bicycles, in cars. And really, I mean, these things are hovering above your head. People are trying to hide under trees. The winter's much harder because there isn't the foliage to hide under. In the centre of Kherson, there are drone nets all above the central streets. And also I went on the little bus, and the first few miles when you're getting into Kherson is you're going under a drone net. And this is all to try and stop the very high level of casualties. But I mean, what a tactic. It's sheer terrorism to hunt people down like this. And the Russian drone pilots, they often post their footage online, sort of gleeful footage of, look, I got this woman with her dog. It's disgusting.
How do people live? I mean, you spoke to residents in Kherson. How do they deal with this daily barrage like this? How do they deal with that risk just from sort of leaving the house and driving down the wrong road?
You just take it in your stride. I think that's something Ukrainians have become very good at, and it's quite hard to explain to people back home, but we would too. I hope maybe not with quite the good grace and humour that they do. There are certain ways, of course, to try and live in a little bit safer way, and the city works very hard. So I went to see the Parks Department. Now, you might think, viewers of Parks and Rec are thinking of like Leslie Knope building a park. But the head of the Parks Department, I went to visit and I interviewed him. And this guy, I mean, not just parks, but it's like fixing all the windows and the doors that have been blown up constantly. And also his staff have bulletproof vests on to collect the rubbish, because the rubbish could contain mines that are dropped, these small petal mines that hide in the leaves. So incredibly dangerous work. But also he's got a semi-automatic shotgun in his office so that he can shoot down drones. And this is the head of the Parks Department. So they work very, very hard to make life possible in Kherson. And there's still 66,000 people there. I mean,
you'd expect life to just sort of halt completely for everybody to leave. Is there a strong sense of, I don't know how to put it, but sort of doggedness that people will not leave despite this horror?
Yes, of course. Some people can't leave. Maybe they're too old. They're not well. They don't have anywhere to go. They don't have a lot of money. Most people just refuse to leave because it's their home. And, as people always say to me, as long as there's one Ukrainian left in this village or this city, then it's a Ukrainian city. And I think especially in Kherson, because tomorrow, of course, is the anniversary, 3 years since the liberation of Kherson. And we all remember that footage, Ukrainian soldiers entering the city after 9 months of occupation by Russia and people sort of unfurling the flags that they'd kept hidden during this brutal regime, this occupation, coming out into the street in tears, and everyone remembers that. So yeah, that hero city, as it's called, is certainly not going to give in just because of drones and artillery. There's a great film about this just out called Human Safari by Zarina Zabriskie. You can watch it for free online, and that really gives you an insight into what people are living through there.
So, in our understanding, Ukraine seems to be retaliating with their own drone attacks into Russia. Are those a very different sort of drone attack that they're sending into Russia?
Yes, because they don't try to blow up civilians. It's fairly straightforward. Yeah, so they're attacking oil refineries, and they've been doing so very successfully. I mean, these drones, there's so much innovation in drone tech now. They can fly very far, and striking sort of Russia's oil production is absolutely crucial to crippling the Russian war machine. A lot of which, obviously, at the moment is focused in Pakrovsk, in that town that's looks like it may fall, probably not very soon, but in the future.
To what extent, Jen, has this war just become like primarily a drone war? And is there except for the sort of attacks on civilians of the sort you were talking about, is there an upside there that is like the toll on troops is less than it once was?
I think it depends where you are in the front line. So look, there are some benefits of drones in that they can use like a little tractor drone. Imagine like a wee guy with tracks that you can put supplies and also wounded people, so that you can evacuate them without having to send people in and out, because it's the getting in and out of the frontline positions that's the most dangerous part. And journalists have been experiencing this too. I mean, Russia's been targeting journalists in this war for a long time, deliberately and very obviously. But now, I mean, the city of Kramatorsk, where a lot of us used to be based, and people still are, that was reasonably safe. I mean, a missile strike, sometimes a bit of artillery, but now, I mean, last week, I think there was 2 Ukrainian journalists who were killed in the center of Kramatorsk, where a Russian drone had flown right up to their car at a petrol station and blown it up.
Wow.
So this risk is just enormous. It's changed how we can report as well. And it is very difficult. And I'll be seeing more of that, because in a couple of days I'm going further up into sort of Donbass region to report with some soldiers and see how that's changed since I was here last.
Yeah, well, look, Jen, stay safe, and thanks very much indeed for sharing that with us. And just for anyone listening, Jen's speaking to me right now on a video call. She is sitting in darkness as there is that power cut in Odessa. That is Jen Stout, journalist covering Ukraine. She's also the author of Night Train to Odessa, which I would highly recommend. Thank you, Jen.